You know, there are new religions coming into history at all times, even in our own generation. What do we call new religions today? Cults. We don't call them religions, do we? Is cult a negative, a neutral, or a positive designation? Negative. On a good day, we might call a cult a sect. Might sound a little bit better. Sects are also negative. Why don't we call new religious movements new religions? Because they're new. Because we, most of us, represent establishment religions. Establishment religions don't like new religions. Why don't establishment religions like new religions? Because new religions are threatening to establishment religions. Because maybe my children will not come home for Passover or for Shabbat and spend time with me. Because maybe they're going to go and follow a new, I'm not going to say prophet, but I'll say guru, or some guru actually is not a negative term. It's only a negative term in 60s, post-60s American discourse. Because I, as a religious person, I am threatened by a new religious movement. What? My religion isn't good enough? I don't want a new religion to be successful. And so I do all I can to prevent the new religion from being successful. I call it a cult. I say it's a bunch of, we say in Latin, Narishkeit. That's a Yiddish term, really. It means silliness. And the prophet is not a real prophet. And the message is not a real divine message. We do everything we can to prevent a new religion from becoming successful. And most religions fail. There are more than 2,000 religious movements have begun in the United States and Europe since the Second World War. It's been counted by academics who study new religious movements. Most of them fail. Some new religious movements succeed. By the way, what's the difference between a cult and a religion? The answer, 100 years. If you can live 100 years, you're no longer a cult, you become a religion. So today, and I don't mean anything negative in my statement, but there are new religious movements that were considered cults and had no respect at all, that now, after 100 or 150 years, are now becoming, finally, accepted as acceptable new religious movements, but with difficulty. Probably the most famous one is what? Baha'i and the LDS Church. LDS Church maybe even more than Baha'i today, but Baha'i as well. What makes a new religion successful? Now that's been an object of study in the academic field of religion for about 2 decades, maybe a little bit more. And there is a problem that new religions have, and that is, how do you demonstrate that you're authentic? How do you demonstrate to a pool of potential believers that what you have to offer them is real? How can I convince you that I'm really a prophet and the message I'm giving you is truth and that I'm an emissary of God? The only way to do that successfully is to use paradigms that already are respectable. If I say to you, for example, I'm a prophet. Now let's see, I'm a prophet, and I'm going to tell you my message, and my message might be lovely and very deeply moving and very spiritual. And you ask me, how do I know what I know? And I'm going to tell you the truth. I receive my message from my, it's like a transmitter in my pinky. And the only time I really get that message is when I'm sitting on the toilet. That may be true. What if it really is true? What if it really does happen? I mean, it's possible that that could be. But I could never convince you of that because the paradigm is not respectable. It's not something that is seen as authentic. I need to demonstrate to you that I'm an authentic prophet, and my prophecy, not only the message, but the way in which it comes to me and the way I convey it to you, is one that is recognizable to you. And so new religious movements always incorporate within themselves the motifs and symbols of established religions. Abraham, for example, he is the individual who is in relationship with God, the first and the most intimate relationship with God, at least in the ancient world. And so he shows up not only in the Torah and the Hebrew Bible, but in the New Testament and the Quran as well. So when a tradition is successful, it's successful partially because it's able to utilize the motifs that have been demonstrated to be successful motifs in history. Chosenness was so deeply associated with monotheism in the ancient world that all new expressions of monotheism seem to, in one way or another, a little bit less so in the more modern period, define themselves as chosen people. You can see this with David Koresh. You can see this with a lot of movements in the 60s and the 70s, because chosenness was so closely associated with authentic monotheism by an accident of history when Israel made the transition from polytheism to monotheism that it became an item of importance. But then the question is, who's the real chosen people? And new religious traditions tend to make the case that they are the real chosen people. And so when Christianity emerged into history, there was a sense, an agreement between both Jews and Christians that only one community could be truly chosen at a time. The Jews said, we're chosen, of course, we have the evidence. And Christians said, you were chosen, but now we're chosen.